the ability to bounce back from adversity and thrive. We're going to explore the ability to bounce back from adversity, adapt, and thrive. Resilience is not genetic. It's a skill developed over time through experience, modeling, and support. And did you know that the research from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child shows resilience is built through responsive relationships, safe environments, and opportunities to develop adaptive skills? Let me ask you, parents, did you hear times tables, division, coddling, giving your child all the love in the world and absolutely no boundaries? Did you hear that in any of the explanation from Harvard? Okay, hello everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about raising resilient kids in an uncertain world. You know, as we are in 2025 and times are getting really challenging and there's polarization within our country and really within the world, you know, we tend to wonder as parents, how does that affect our children? And overall, what can we do to give them the skills to be resilient in 2025 and beyond? Because I think as we look into the future and decide what kids will need 20 years from now to be successful, it really comes back to the social, emotional, and soft skills that kids need to really thrive, because it's not going to be rote knowledge. It's not going to be memorization that's going to allow for children to be successful. You really look at the way AI is moving, the way technology is moving, it's taking away a lot of those rote skills, rote tasks that we do every day that have filled some people's lives with purpose. You know, as we move forward into the future, the questions get simpler. What is work? What is purpose? What is work-life balance? Will we even need to work? Our kids are going to be facing things that we never even thought of in the future. And so that's why I've put together for Creative Gardens today a little bit of a resource. And I'm going to go ahead and sit down. Hopefully it'll catch me over here and talk a little bit about, let's see if I can move this here. Okay, and talk a little bit about raising resilient kids in an uncertain world. Get it going. So what are some of the things that are posing problems for children today? And really more so, what are some of the things that are causing this increased anxiety in our country? And really what it comes down to is a couple of things. One is our country is at war in many different ways. There are many other countries at war. That raises the overall anxiety of people. The economic instability, we're dealing with that right now with the government shutdown. Social media pressure, the anxious generation, and know the impact that social media has on our children, especially in the teens and especially girls. Climate change, you know, whether you want to believe it or not, it's something that's happening and causing large-scale weather events and, of course, mass destruction in some areas. And so, of course, this is going to increase the overall anxiety in the air, if you will. Political unrest, again, going back to a very polarized country right now. And then, of course, the dramatic increase post-COVID of mental health crisis. So today we're going to explore the ability to bounce back from adversity and thrive. Today we're going to explore the ability to bounce back from adversity, adapt, and thrive. Resilience is not genetic. It's a skill developed over time through experience, modeling, and support. And did you know that the research from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child shows resilience is built through responsive relationships, safe environments, and opportunities to develop adaptive skills? Let me ask you, parents, anywhere in that, did you hear times tables, division, coddling, giving your child all the love in the world and absolutely no boundaries? Did you hear that in any of the explanation from Harvard? Now, here's something that we see a lot these days, and it is over-coddling. And parents, what am I talking about when it comes to over-coddling? It's trying to get the environment or trying to control the world, if you will, and experiences that your child has in the world by protecting them from anything that could go wrong. People are shocked when I tell them that with my youngest daughter, We had no safety latches, anything in our house. And of course, people scoff at that. But really, we know that, one, we're very attentive with our children when they're around, almost too attentive, which it goes back to the problem. And again, I want to reiterate, all of these things that I'm saying to you today are not things that I'm not guilty of myself. I'm very much guilty of them myself. I know that we all struggled through things like COVID. And so hopefully, we get better as parents together in collaboration. It's just that I do this every day and work in this field and do research in this field. So I thought I would bring this to you as an added value. The protection becomes a problem when your intention is to keep kids safe from pain or failure, and the outcome ends up being learned helplessness, lack of coping skills, low frustration and tolerance. And studies show that over-involved snowplow, helicopter, bulldozer parenting can increase anxiety and delay emotional maturity. Failing forward is the way. And let me go back in saying that emotional immaturity caused by not having to deal with hard things or challenging things makes sense, right? Like, of course, our kids are not going to have the ability to bounce back. They're not going to have the ability to critically think when times get hard if they're never posed in those positions, if they're never put in those places and learn either through failure, trial by fire, if you will, or by a parent close to them, allowing them to fail and following up with them with a learning moment in a time that's super, super, super important. That little time where failure is felt becomes a real opportunity for learning. And so failing forward is not only something that our school here at Creative Gardens takes very seriously and is part of our approach to learning, but it's also the key to building the skills that kids will need. Turning mistakes into growth. If you haven't read Carol Dweck's Growth Mindset, I urge you to do so. It's all about what is the overlying factor for successful people, and it comes down to grit. And so she talks a lot about this within Growth Mindset. And the research on Growth Mindset is that kids who are praised for effort, not outcomes, are more resilient and less afraid to fail. And let me give you a story here. A couple of nights ago, one of my oldest daughters, Sophia, was completing a project for school. She's a sophomore at Loudoun County Public Schools. And my youngest daughter, Fallon, saw her doing that and turned around and started just creating a project out of nowhere on Germany. And I'm talking like a whole poster board full of facts on Germany. She was reading all kinds of facts on Germany, population, location, all of that, all self-driven, all not a part of school, and all completely mind-blowing. The reason being is this was entirely provocational. It was entirely self-driven. No need for school. School never asked. This is work that she intrinsically was motivated to do. One, that's super special. And two, that's learning, right? Like those are the environments we need to be putting kids into so that they can self-explore and create and discover the world through their own lens and not so much through the lens that's barked at them every day. But part of that was that at the end of it, she presented it. And when she was presenting, she struggled because, of course, when you're getting up and you're sharing ideas with the world, it's scary. And she froze a little bit. And, we were there with her listening. Her sisters were there. One of her oldest sister in Clemson was on FaceTime. She was presenting, all again, just kind of self-driven. And we wanted to make sure that we were super interested. Anyway, at the end of it, she said, I thought I didn't do good because I liked my project, but when I got up and presented my idea, I was scared. And I said, listen, you need to be proud of the fact that you tried so hard. I said, it's not, and this is great advice for adults too, it isn't about the outcome necessarily. Right? It's about the process. And if you can reflect on the process and learn from mistakes and learn from your previous tries and efforts, then ultimately that leads to a life of growth. And I was so proud of her, but the fact that she thought, and again, she's in public school, the fact that she thought the whole project's ruined because I got scared when I got up. No, it's about the process. It's about the hours she spent working to get that done. Failure helps kids learn self-regulation, perseverance, and creative problem solving. It puts kids into a state where logic and critical thinking have to be enacted within the brain, which then gives the brain practice and through repetition builds that quote unquote muscle of learning to fail, learning to regulate, and learning to learn. And then of course, a big action step you can take as parents to normalize this in the household is to normalize the phase. What did you learn from that? Instead of, why did you do that? I'm going to say that one more time. What did you learn from that? Instead of, why did you do that? The misconception of gentle parenting. Gentle parenting, honestly, has done more harm than good, in my opinion, because too many parents in the world thought that gentle parenting meant only care about the child's feelings. The child is behaving that way because they're feeling a certain way. Let's not engage the behaviors. Let's not have conflict. And again, going back to what does that teach the child? In a world that is filled with conflict right now, we're teaching the child that there's no conflict in the world and that mommy and daddy will protect them for the rest of their lives. And that's just not reality. Gentle parenting isn't about permissiveness, right? It's about empathy and structure. Those two things are so important, friends. Empathy, structure. Empathy, structure. Care about feelings, put boundaries in play. Care about feelings, put boundaries in play. Boundaries are the key. Have you sat around with your partner and decided what was okay and not okay within the household? If you haven't, friends, please do that. When the child's out of the room, what do we think is okay? What do we think is not okay? Decide as parents. You might even, with older kids, include your child in this conversation. In my house and a lot of schools, you do classroom constitutions where the kids help to create the rules and the consequences. This gives them agency. It gives them ownership over the rules, over the rule of law in their classroom, if you will. And then ultimately, when you go to enforce these rules, they're a part of the creation. So they can't just deny not following them and not dealing with the overall consequences of their behaviors. Research shows that research shows that children thrive when they feel seen and secure. When they feel seen, empathy. When they feel secure, boundaries. Why does boundaries make children secure? I'll tell you why. Because kids don't really have a lot of control over their life. So they root a lot of things in schedule and time. That's part of their executive functioning brain developing, their prefrontal cortex developing. And so if there is no consistency when it comes to schedule, when it comes to time in a child's life, it puts them into a state of dysregulation. It puts them into a state where they're not able to learn. And so the more we can provide a secure, consistent environment, the more, because they don't understand things like time, the more that they can feel regulated, the more that they feel secure. Seen, empathy, secure, boundaries, structure. The danger is when gentle is misunderstood, and this happens at scale. And I'm going to get close here, friends. This happens at scale. The problem is and has always been that when gentle parenting came out, so many parents used that as an excuse to not have conflict with their kids. Conflict around behavior is not the responsibility of your school teacher. It's the responsibility of you as the parent. So please learn to say no sometimes, parents. It's a complete sentence. When your child asks, no. And parents, I'm going to see you here and I'm going to say, look, I get it. I don't always land on saying no. I'm a sucker too. I have a young kiddo as well. But know that the more we ignore the word no, the more that we just give in, the more that we don't provide secure boundaries for kids, the more we are saying we don't believe in them, that we don't think they're strong enough to get through life. And I urge you, see the seriousness in my face, because I say this to myself every single day as well, which is be secure, be consistent, learn to say no. Got it? Good. Anyway, moving on. What resilient kids actually need. Ingredients of resilience: predictable routines provide emotional safety. Natural consequences teach accountability. Supportive struggle allow for discomfort with guidance. Modeling emotional regulation. Kids mirror how we handle stress. That's a big one. And I'm going to go back to it. Opportunities for autonomy. Let me try. My friends, modeling emotional regulation, co-regulation is so important. When your child is having a really tough time, rather than meeting that energy with negative energy or anger or screaming, get to a place where you can, and I say get to a place because sometimes our kids get to us, and if your kids get to you, be smart, regulate, which means go and calm down, come back and have the conversation. Be the model for what you want to see with your child. Hey, I know you're angry, but I'm here and I want to hear how you feel. They tell you, I hear that you're angry. I hear that you're sad. That does not make your behavior okay. And you may not act upon that anger on other people. You can't hurt other people with your anger. Hear how I said anger a ton of times? I called the emotion a ton of times. You hear the sound of my voice? Are you asleep? I'm kidding. But the point being is that we model that behavior. We model it. And so I want all those parents out there to really think about this moment that I'm having with you. And remember that the next time your child gets angry, I want you to do me a favor. The best thing you can do is something called box breathing. And simply breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, let go for 4 seconds. We're going to do that again. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. I want you to do that 5 times. That's the best way you can regulate yourself. That's scientific right there. That's science, parents. Use it. All right. Co-regulation, key. You can't meet anger with anger. You're an adult, right? From infancy to adolescence, here's some ways that you can build resilience with your kiddos. First, infancy, responsive caregiving. This is stuff that you do already as great parents, but snuggling, caring for them. Co-regulation builds brain architecture. When you feel calm holding your baby, they are calm. They want to be calm. They feel your calmness. Predictable routines for sleep and feeding. Again, going back to, we want to root as soon as they are born, that sense of consistency, that sense of structure. As they become toddlers, you can start labeling those emotions as we talked about. You're feeling frustrated. Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling sad? You're feeling sad. You're feeling angry. You're feeling frustrated. And then safe exploration plus natural consequences. Provide an environment where they might topple over. Be there, but don't necessarily get them up every time. Let them get themselves up. Let them struggle. As they get into school age, chores and responsibilities. If you guys haven't already, the Skylight calendar that you can get is phenomenal. It sets up chores. You can do rewards for it, stars, all that kind of stuff. It's phenomenal. It's a great tool for families, especially I have 5 kids, so it's an amazing tool to have for 5 kids. And then reflective problem solving conversations. Talk about how we solve interpersonal issues together. Talk it out. Have those conversations. Tweens and teens, allowing risk, age-appropriate independence. Let your kids get out there. Let your kids stay out at night for a little while. Let them learn. Don't shelter them. Encouraging decision-making and processing failure. So this is another big one. Talk about the outcomes or potential outcomes with your kiddos, but allow them to make the choice, even if it's not a choice you would make. Let them learn the lessons that we all learned in the backyard playing all day long. Please. Language plays a very important role in the parenting aspect. Try these things. Instead of be careful, try what's your plan for staying safe. Instead of you're so smart, try you worked hard on that. You should be very proud of that. Instead of stop crying, try, it's okay to feel upset. I'm here. Do you hear the difference in those? One is demand. The other is a question. The other shows empathy, shows boundaries. Big action steps for you parents to walk away with from this short combo this morning. Small shifts, big impact. Let them struggle with you nearby. Tell stories of your own failures and comebacks. Use empathy and boundaries. Praise effort, curiosity, and process. Help them find their why. Purpose fuels perseverance. Purpose fuels perseverance. And lastly, if you want some great books and resources, The Whole Brain Child by Dr. Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson is an amazing book. Raising Resilient Children by Robert Brooks and Sam Goldstein. Good Inside, one of my favorites, Dr. Becky Kennedy. Growth Mindset, probably number 1. Actually, the next one is by Carol Dweck. And if you have not read this book, I encourage every single parent on this, watching this, to please read it. It's called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Please, I beg you, read it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me virtually for this first in a 6-part series, Raising Resilient Children in an Uncertain World, this overall series called Parenting for the Future. I encourage you to stick around. We're going to be doing these every month. I'll put them up on Facebook for you guys to watch, Instagram, all of our socials. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for tuning into Creative Gardens. And if you are interested, we are enrolling here at the Ashburn Village School with spots available for infants and toddlers. There's no better in the area, so please come check us out, 20909 Ashburn Village Boulevard. Give us a buzz here, it's 37234-500, or email the director, Travis@creativegardensva, like Virginia.com. Thank you so much. Have a good one.